welcome back to another episode of the Female Empowered Podcast. I am your host, as always, Christa Gurka, and today's episode, I'm really excited about it because it's something I've actually not spoken about before, and it's something I've realized that a lot of people don't even know is an option, and a lot of people in our industry are not talking about it. So I want to be a trailblazer, and I want to be the first one to bring it to you because I think it's going to change how a lot of you think about growth, about your future, about ownership. So let's get into it, okay? Right now, somewhere in your city, there is a Pilates studio, a PT practice, or a wellness business with a great client base, a trained team, an empowered team, an accountable team, real cash flow, and the owner is ready to walk away. So you could open a new location from scratch, or you could buy that business, keep the clients, keep the revenue, and skip the 2 years of being in the red, the 2 years of ramp up time, the 2 years of wondering what if. So this is not a fantasy that is reserved for private equity. It's a financing structure that's available to you right now with a fraction of the cash that you think you need. So what we're talking about today is called growth, entrepreneurship through acquisition. And I'm going to walk you through some real numbers like I always do. Real cash flowing, already built businesses are sitting there waiting for you. So you do not have to only compete against the big guys buying up the industry. You can be a buyer too. Like I said, this is called Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition, or ETA for short. And it is one of the most overlooked growth strategies in boutique fitness and wellness for small independent studios. Most of us only know one way to grow. Go open a second location, a third location, start from scratch, build it from the studs up, hire slowly, market from zero, grind for 2 to 3 years, hoping you break even. And that is the only model most of us ever thought was possible, but it is not the only model that exists. So today what I'm going to do is walk you through exactly what ETA is, how financing actually works, and I'm going to do the real math with you, buying versus building, right? So you can see for yourself which one actually gets you profit, right? So you can build it on your own, you can buy it, or you can borrow. Right? So there's ways to do that. And it's how I grew Pilates in the Grove, actually, when I was opening multiple locations. And it's something that is available to you right now. So what does ETA actually mean? It actually simply means becoming an owner by buying an already operating business instead of starting one from the ground up. So this concept comes out of the Stanford search fund model, originally built for MBA graduates who raised investor money to go find a business to buy. That is what they call a funded search. So that means that they have investors that are going to fund this buy-up. Okay, that's not technically what I'm going to be talking about today. The version that I'm going to be talking about today that actually matters for us in this industry is what's called the self-funded search, where you use your own capital or a small business loan, an SBA loan, right? An SBA 7A, to buy the business yourself. There's lots of different ways you can do this. You keep the ownership, and then you are not reporting to investors or a board, right? So here is the number that should actually get your attention. And when this was brought to my attention, I was flabbergasted. So SBA financing can cover roughly up to about 90% of the purchase price. And I think it can go up to $5 million. So that means that your actual cash out of pocket, your down payment, is typically only 10 to 20%. And part of that can even come from the seller in what we call a seller's note, which I did in my sale, right? Where it's basically seller financing for a piece of the business. So this way you're not raising millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. You are not running a hedge fund. You are not doing like going out and taking a second mortgage on your home. You are doing what a smart business acumen owner does, using leverage the same way you'd use a mortgage to buy a house instead of paying cash for it, right? So here's where I want to get into buying versus building, right? I want to walk you through this with actual numbers because, like I always say, feelings are not facts. And I want you to see this on paper. Okay, so let's start. So let's say you're going to start from scratch. So you're going to do what we call build, right? Build out, let's even say we're going to take a small space, maybe 1,500 square feet. You're going to do 6 reformers. It's probably going to cost you, depending on where, I know this is like depending on where you are in the city, in the country, I mean, what city you're in, it's probably going to cost you somewhere between $50,000 to $100,000, including like your first, last, and security, the construction, the floors, the equipment, the desks. I would say it's probably going to cost you somewhere between $50,000 and $150,000, right? To get you going. Again, this totally depends on where you are. And obviously if you're doing a mat studio, it's probably not going to cost that much for equipment. But when you then are trying to set up for some marketing and client acquisition, if you are being someone who's like, I need to pay for marketing because I need to get in front of people, which I do believe back in the day you didn't necessarily need to do that, but I do think you need to do that now. You can budget like $2,000 on the low end to, $4,000 to $10,000 on the high end, right? Depending on how much you're going to put in and what kind of budget you have. So because nobody knows that you exist yet, you need to get out there in front of people. Whether you're going to hire someone to do this or whether you're going to do this on your own, right? You have now like a timeline to profitability, right? So you can be anywhere from 12, 24, 36 months before you're actually profitable and before you're paying yourself a 6-figure salary and having a 15% profit, right? So sometimes it takes $200,000-$300,000 just to break even, and then on top of that need to pay yourself, and then on top of that need to have save for taxes, and then on top of that need to have some profitability. All right, so if you are starting from scratch, let's say you're going to put out, let's even go on the low end. Let's say your first, last, and security is going to cost you like 20 grand. A build out, let's even say you do it small and it's going to cost you like 30 grand. So now you're at 50 grand. Equipment is going to cost you 50 grand. So now you're at 100 grand. Okay. You're hiring, you're putting in marketing. So for the first, let's say 18 to 24 months, you're not really paying yourself. So that is going to cost you a couple $100,000 of no salary, right? So now you're looking at what? $250,000, $300,000 with grinding, right? Grinding day to day. Now, let's look at buying an existing studio, okay? So say you find an existing studio, whether it be mat or yoga or spinning or whatever the case may be, and that business is doing, let's say they're doing $600,000, $700,000 in annual revenue, and they're at like a 15% profit margin. So let me do the math just so I do that right. So let's say they're doing 700,000 in revenue and they're at a 15% profit. That's 105,000, right? And let's say that the owner really is stepped away. The owner's not teaching. The owner is not really responsible for the day-to-day, and she pays herself $50,000, right? So now you're at $150,000 of what we would call seller's discretionary earnings, okay? So that is, they're cash flow positive, they have their systems down, they have a lease that they're signed into for the next, 8 to 10 years. Businesses right now in our industry are running anywhere from like 2.5 to 3.5 or 4 that multiple. So let's even go on the low end. So let's say 150,000 times, let's just say 3. Okay. So now the value of that business is like 450. Again, this is just simple, high. There's a lot that goes into it. Please don't think it's that simple, but it's just high, what would you say? Like high numbers, like, from a 30,000 foot view, right? So if you apply for an SBA loan and you can get roughly 90% of that finance, that means that your loan will be about $400,000. Okay. Which means you have to come up with about $45,000, $50,000 at closing, like for a down payment. Okay. And maybe you can get the seller to give you $25,000 as a seller note, and you can come up with $25,000 to put it down. All right. On a 10-year SBA loan with around 11%, your monthly debt service will be about $5,600 a month, or about what is that? $5,600. Let's say 5,000 times 12. That's about what, $60,000 a year. Okay. And the studio is still generating $150,000 on day one in profit. So you get to take right away a salary, plus you have that capital to be working towards to grow the business. All right. Yes, you have to be able to meet that $5,600 a month. But if the business is doing $100,000 in annual profit and you divide that by 12, they're doing in profit like $8,500 a month. So that will definitely cover your $5,600 plus your salary. Okay. So you're not really in the red, right? So you're paying down an asset and you're paying it down over 10 years. And so here's what you look at. It might cost you $250,000 over an 18-month period to start up a new studio versus $25,000 to $40,000 startup fee. And then you have 18 to 24 months to basically break even. Okay. So it's like, and I'm telling you, this is with a business that has like built-in systems, built-in clientele. They're doing cash flow. All right. So let's just look at this again. Okay. So if you were to open up one on your own, you have to go find the place, negotiate a lease, pay first, last, and security, buy all the equipment, have it shipped, build it out, start from zero. Versus if you buy an existing studio, right, that the owner wants to sell, you can wrap it into your own brand. Okay, so we did this at Pilates in the Grove, and you're already starting with clients. You don't have to buy the equipment. You have a lease now that you're guaranteed in for hopefully if you have an SBA loan, I think you need 10 years on that lease. And you already have a ramp up time, right? And if you take an SBA loan versus like seller financing, then you're coming to the table with like maybe $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 at the most. And yes, you have to pay down that debt. You have to be paying it year over year, but it's like $5,000 a year versus coming out of pocket $250,000 like from the get-go to start a new place. So this is what we call entrepreneurship through acquisition, or what I like to call growth through acquisition. So if you are thinking of, I want to expand, but the thought of starting from scratch is really hard, you can go on places that are like Biz Buy Sell, see if there's studios in your area that are for sale. You can call up people in your area that you know and say, hey, listen, we're considering growing. Are you interested in selling? Like, you can have those conversations with people. There's lots of unique ways that you can do it. You can do what's called also like an earn out. So you can pay for the business or for the equipment, for the assets, right? And then let's say that new owner does want to stay on, but she doesn't really want to be the owner anymore. You can also offer her like an earn out. Be like, any of your clients that stay for a certain period of time, we'll give you a percentage of that revenue over a period of time. So it's a win for this owner and they stay on and continue to work in the business. And it's a win for you because you're only paying out that earn out if these people stay on as clients. So it's just something really interesting, especially if you're not doing something that you need equipment, like if you're doing mat, which is really popular right now. Look for places that could be ready to sell. And if you don't see any on Biz Buy Seller in your local market, don't be afraid to reach out to people and ask those questions and be like, are you interested in possibly selling? Would this spark your interest? Could we start negotiation? And I don't want to make this like, this is like high level kind of stuff looking down, because there is a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of like negotiation and like, what is the business actually worth? But generally what a business is worth is its profit. And then whether you can actually add back or you have to subtract the owner's salary, depending on how owner dependent this business is. But there is a lot of upside to selling, right? Or to buying and growing through acquisition. The other thing on the flip side, let's say you're ready to walk away. Let's say you're an owner that has good recurring revenue, that is profitable, where you as the owner have stepped away. Maybe you're ready to exit stage left, and you can reach out to other Pilates studios in your area and say, hey, I'm thinking of making an exit. Would you be interested in purchasing my studio? Now, there's a lot that has to happen in that process, but this is just something to kind of pique your interest and get you thinking outside of the box as far as, how do I bring up these conversations? Oh, I didn't even realize that was an opportunity for me. Let me look at these studios now. And I think there's a lot of people, a lot of owners that might be like, yeah, I'm ready to get out, right? The competition is fierce now. And so there's a benefit to you already being in the industry, right? And speaking the same language. You already know what a good class feels like. You know what a good instructor looks like. You know what retention actually depends on, right? And so you can have, like, some people might be more excited to sell to somebody that's already in the industry versus like somebody else. So I think that I just want to bring this idea into your minds and share something that maybe a lot of people haven't talked about. So people are doing it all over the place. People are becoming entrepreneurs by buying like dry cleaning services and roofing companies and pool service businesses. So you don't necessarily have to start from ground zero and greenfield all these places and start from scratch. So you can look at it and decide, do I want to build? Do I want to buy? Or do I want to borrow? And I think that, I'd love just to start this conversation about, again, what is available for people out there and how you can just think outside the box, right? Growth does not always have to mean starting from zero. Building from scratch means at least 12 months in the red before you see $1, maybe 24 months in the red before you see paying yourself really well and profit. Buying an existing cash flow positive business can mean you inherit great clients, you inherit a great team, you inherit real revenue on day one, often for a smaller dollar amount, a smaller down payment, a smaller initial investment than you think it is, right? It's basically, if you think about it, it's a financing structure available to any operator willing to do their homework. All right. So the next studio you grow into might not need to be built. It just may need to be bought. So if this got you thinking a little differently about what growth could look like for you, this is exactly the kind of strategic thinking we work on inside my Elevate to Exit program, which is where people are looking to sell their business. And this is one of the strategic moves we talk about. And also people looking to grow their business, right? How can we grow and add more profit to your business so that you can sell eventually down the road for more profit? More profit plus a bigger multiple equals a bigger payout. So if you're interested in discussing more about this, you can head over to my website, christagurka.com, and check out the Work With Me page. Or if you want just an easier way to reach out to me, you can DM me over on Instagram. I read every single one, so you can DM me. I'm at Chris. And I would love to chat with you a little bit about it, whether you're considering buying a business, whether you're considering building one, whether you're already in the trenches. I would love to hear from you and chat and keep the conversation going. So I hope you learned something today. And until next time, my friends, bye for now.